On a recent trip from northeast Florida to Sanibel Island, I took an unplanned side trip to Oscar Scherer State Park, and I'm glad I did. Oscar Scherer State Park is located between Sarasota and Venice in southwest Florida. They don't have a boat ramp at Oscar Scherer, but if you have a canoe, a kayak, or in my case, a folding boat, they have a nice sandy beach that you can launch from into a body of water known as South Creek. And from here you'll find miles of beautiful estuaries to fish. When I left the beach, I headed east up South Creek. After fishing along the banks for about a half an hour without a bite, I decided that all the afternoon rains that we've been having recently in this area had made the water too fresh, and I needed to head more out towards the Gulf. After a short run to the west, I found this nice cut in the mangroves with a great current flowing through it and deep water. It didn't take long for the action to pick up. Wait for it, wait for it. Hey, swing and a miss! Connection and redemption. This feisty juvenile snook is not going to win any heavyweight title, but it certainly is representing itself well in the featherweight division. Here I'm using the Vulcan snook lift that I learned from Flip Pallet on the Walker's Cay Chronicles. By lifting the snook by its midsection, it basically puts it to sleep, so they're a lot easier to handle. And for the next hour, as long as the tide was coming in, it was one snook after another until the tide went slack. This was one of those dream trips where you didn't go more than 2 casts without a fish. Again, I'm using the Vulcan snook lift to take the snook out of the water. They'll stay motionless until you stick your finger in their mouth, so be ready for that. At this point, I'd like to share a public service announcement. After every snook, check your line and leader for abrasions. This is how an abraded and broken line looks after an angler forgets to trim it back after a fight. Once I had the new jig tied on, it didn't take long to hook into the next snook. Today I was using a 4-inch long white paddle tail. I had that on a 1/4 ounce jig head. I was using the heavier jig head because I wanted it to get deeper in the 4 to 5 foot of water because the snook were hanging just off the bottom. I was using a 7-foot medium action spinning rod with a 2500 class reel. On the reel I had 8-pound braid, and at the end of the braid I had 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, I actually made a mistake. I should have used 30-pound fluorocarbon leader, but I had left it in the truck. So because snook have such an abrasive gill plate, I highly recommend using the higher tester, at least 30-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament leader when you're going after snook. One other tip, snook normally face into the current, so make your cast so when you do your retrieve, the bait swims with the current. That'll increase your number of strikes. If you want to explore South Creek but don't have your own boat, they rent canoes and kayaks at the park. In addition to the water activities, this park features a 104-site campground, including a playground, 15 miles of trails, 2 large picnic areas, And at Lake Osprey picnic area, you'll find a nice swimming and fishing lake, along with the nature center that will give you insight to the animals, birds, and plants of this area. After my 3-hour fishing break from driving, it's time to hit the road again to my final destination at Sanibel Island. Thanks for joining me on this trip. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so now so you won't miss the next adventure.